Well, Saturday night, it's Richmond versus Essendon from the MCG. What do we hope to get out of this game now that the season is officially over? Well, there's a bit to talk about, and we're going to discuss all of it regarding this match in this video.
See the bombers fly up to win the premiership flag. Our boys who play this mighty game always strive for glory and fame.
So what can we get out of this game against Richmond? It's obviously a game that on paper we should win. We beat Richmond reasonably comfortably last time by 23 points. And now that the season is over, what are we really looking for? Because it is funny, going to games now. I mean, I've been to, 500 games or so, and you get to this point at the end of the year where now, your emotions don't really matter that much because wins and losses don't really matter in terms of, there's no finals ramifications or anything like that. You really just, want to see the team win because you're an Essendon supporter and you want the team to win, but you know that there's not really anything riding on it. So what are we really looking for? Well, there's a couple of things that need to be pointed out. First of all, that Brad Scott definitely plays to win. He picks a team every week to win the game. Now, that's not to say he hasn't been experimenting a little bit during the year, bringing in a lot of players, and there's been at least 2 changes to the game plan that I think are pretty significant, and I think we saw one on the weekend against the Gold Coast. But definitely I think playing to win is important because it's good for the club culture. Look, at the end of the day, we're going to finish, in the position roughly where we are, maybe one spot up, maybe one spot down. It's not really going to make much difference. But it's definitely important to play to win. And there's a few players that have been battling their hearts out. Blackiston, I've been pretty impressed with in the back line. He's taken a number of contested marks or intercept marks over the last couple of weeks, which is why he was picked in the first place. He played a game in the VFL in the back line, the first time he's really ever played there. Took 11 intercept possessions and was promoted to the AFL, struggled in his first game against Geelong, and has adapted and got better each week. So I want to see players like him and Archer May get a win. They've played for Essendon for about 3 games now, and they haven't got their first win yet. So I really want to see these guys get their first win. I think it would be a good thing. And you need that reward as well, because at the end of the day, it does dispirit you, and it would be good for the supporters as well. If you like the content I provide, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell as well, because that will ensure that you never miss a video. About 65% of the people watching this are not subscribed. It only takes 1 second to do so, and it doesn't cost any money. So I would really appreciate it if you haven't already to hit that like and subscribe button. So Damien Hardwick sort of mentioned in the game after the game against the Suns that he was a bit sort of taken aback by the Bombers' strategy, particularly the fact that we had so much pressure around the ball. We had a pressure rating of over 200 for the first 3 quarters before it fell away in the last quarter. And perhaps most surprisingly, really, really speedy ball movement, particularly by hand. And I don't mean overhandballing it either. I mean like moving it forward, moving it quickly. We've been very, very conservative in most matches with the ball in hand this year, chipping it around far too often. We've taken the easy handball just to a teammate, who's standing just next to us, a sideways pass so that we keep possession of the ball rather than actually try to create a switch across the ground or something that's actually going to help us.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
So what I think we're looking for as supporters in this game is to continue that strategy, what we saw, what we saw against the Gold Coast, where we really altered the way we were playing. Because if we revert back to what we were doing, it's really a waste. It's really a waste. I mean, what we saw, I think, last week is, how we want to play. There's 2 important things, I think, that go towards being a premiership team. You need talent. You need a lot of good players coming together, peaking at the right time of their careers. And you need a sound game plan. So the talent thing is up in the air. We hope, obviously, over the course of the next few years, we can develop that, and we've got some good young players there. But we do need a sound game plan. And what I saw last week is much, much closer to how I want us to be playing. So regardless of the result of this game on the weekend, I want to see us play with the same dare, the same level of intensity, the same quick ball movement, particularly by hand, no chipping it around, because that is what's going to take us forward if we're going to be improving next year. That's really what I'm going to be looking for. And of course, the improvement and continuing improvement of a lot of the young players. So just a quick look at some of the potential changes to the side. Richmond will have at least 3 outs. Bolter will be out due to his curfew with the court thing. Ralph Smith and Lawler, the number 1 draft pick, did hamstring, so they will be out for Richmond. With Essendon, we will probably be missing Caldwell. As I'm narrating this video, he's going to go in for scans on a rolled ankle. These things always end up, worse than they seem for Essendon. At least it's not a soft tissue injury. It's just a bit of bad luck with a rolled ankle there. But I'll say he's going to miss. And I'm just going to say that Perkins and Gresham are going to be omitted. Gresham was the sub last week, so I guess he's the closest to being omitted. Perkins was the sub 2 weeks in a row prior to last week's match against the Suns, and then he was subbed out. So he's had the sub vest on in one way or the other 3 weeks in a row. So really, he's pretty close to being omitted, I would say. Given that Caldwell is a likely out, I'm assuming, and I seem to say this every week, and it often doesn't happen, but I'm assuming Sartis will come into the side. He was on the phone with Brad Scott about potentially coming into the side very, very late on Saturday morning as to whether he could make it. He was in the car, apparently, when Brad Scott called him. Sartis was the first emergency, and it ended up not needing him because Dersma, who did have a bit of back spasms, was able to take his place. So given that Sartis was, in the end, very close to playing, I'd say he would probably come into the side. Redman, who is due back this week, should come straight back into the side. And I'm picking Guelphy as well to come in, perhaps in place of Gresham, who, sort of wore the sub vest. It only came on and didn't really have any sort of impact when he did come on. So the last time we played Richmond was the Dreamtime game a few weeks ago. We're meeting them for the second time in 2 months, so it's pretty close in terms of meeting a team twice in a short period of time. So the likely outs from the last time we played Richmond, last time we had Mackay, he won't be playing. We had Reid, he won't be playing. We had Langford, and we had Caldwell, and I'm assuming Caldwell will be out, but it's not confirmed. And I've just put asterisks next to Gresham and Perkins as possible outs as well if they are omitted. Likely ins from the last time we played Richmond. Zach Johnson didn't play last time against Richmond. He'll play on the weekend. Ridley didn't play against Richmond. He'll play. Lawal, who played pretty well over the weekend, he'll be selected. Blackiston will most likely play. And I've just got asterisks next to Sartis and Guelphy as likely ins if they are selected. So where will this match be won? Well, normally when I do these previews, I have a look at the key stats, the key differences between the two teams. Often there's particular areas of significance where one team has a huge advantage over another. The reality is that Richmond are pretty much last or second last or in the bottom few teams in pretty much every single category I could find. There's not really anything. They're just a really average team, and they've got injury problems as well. There's only a couple of areas that they're kind of okay in. One is first possession from clearance differential. They rank 10th, so they're about mid-rank in the AFL. But one area that did surprise me, and this is an important stat in some respects because it goes towards turnovers, is intercept mark differential. And intercept mark differential, Richmond rank 4th in the competition at plus 1.8. Essendon are minus 4.1. So on average, net, they have 6 more intercept marks per game than Essendon. This is actually an important statistic because turnovers are the main factor in the AFL that determine wins and losses. If you give the ball to the opposition, you may as well be playing for the opposition. And that is one area that we need to improve on. We are last in the AFL in that particular stat. Intercept mark differential. You need to get the ball off the opposition, and you need to be able to hold on to the ball when you've got it. If you give the ball back to the opposition, it is vitally important that you don't give the ball to the opposition. So interestingly, in that stat, intercept mark differential, where Richmond are 4th, the number 1 and 2 teams are Collingwood and Adelaide. All right, so they actually rank pretty significantly high in one particularly important stat. But really, pretty much everything else, they're right down the bottom of the AFL in almost everything. So really, this is a match that we should win, and there's really no excuses. And I think it's important to reward the supporters as well as some of those players who have been in the team for a little while now with a much-deserved win. So I'd really love to see as well what they do with Kako. I thought Kako played his best game for the club last week. That was just my view. I know he only kicked the one goal, but he played a bit higher up the field, more as a bit of a link man, sort of between the forward 50 and the midfield, and that gave him more opportunities with the football. He got the ball more, he's creative, his pressure was good, and he had, 10 contested possessions, which was, only beaten by Sam Durham and Zach Merritt. So that was a really significant change, I thought, with Kako. Didn't spend quite as much time directly in the forward 50, but just sort of had that that link between the forward 50 and the midfield, and it seemed to work well. So I'd like to see that continue. I'd like to see Blackiston continue to improve. So Blackiston is playing a deceptively important role for us, given the absence of Reid and Mackay. And what we really want is a couple of key position players, of which Blackiston is sort of effectively one now, given that he's sort of intercept defender, which frees up Ridley a little bit more to play the intercept role, which he's so good at. So the fact that Blackiston can sort of hold down that role frees up Ridley to play the role that he's most comfortable in. So it's important that Blackiston continues to play well. What should we do with Goldstein? Well, there's a lot of people, and I always read the comments, guys. I read every single one. You want to see Vigo in the team. With Vigo, I'll just say to everybody that wants to see him in, just calm the farm a little bit, right? It's not like the Sartis situation where you sort of feel there's some urgency to bringing Sartis in the team. With Vigo, guys, he's young, he's 20 years old, his body's still growing and developing, he's not getting traded, he's not going anywhere, okay? He's not going anywhere, and there's nothing wrong with seeing him develop in the twos. When I was growing up, Michael Tuck was the game's record holder, and he played for Hawthorn. And he played 426 games. He played about 80 in the reserves, which was a magnificent grounding for him. There's this perception that because Vigo's not in the team, he's not developed. I mean, you're still developing if you're playing in the reserves. And you don't have to have every single young player all playing at the same time. So all I would say with the Vigo situation is just hold your horses. He's going to be hopefully a 10-year player for us. I would anticipate, looking at what I've seen of him in the reserves and in the game against Fremantle, he would probably go ahead of Nick Bryan next year anyway. He'll play plenty of senior football, but there is nothing wrong with playing him in the reserves and continuing to see him develop in the reserves, which sometimes can be more beneficial than playing in the seniors. All right, he's not getting traded, he's not going anywhere. All right, so there's no urgency to play him now, and especially given the absence of so many senior players, it allows Goldstein just to have that leadership role that we need. So it's not a hill I want to die on. If Vigo plays, great. I like him, and he's going to be a really good player for us. But it's not absolutely essential that he plays the rest of this year. Maybe 1 or 2 games if Goldstein gets rested. But there's nothing wrong with having him develop in the reserves, especially given the position he plays. Ruck is different to a midfielder. It just is. It's just a different type of position. Those players often do take more time because of the size required for your body to grow into. It's just one of those positions that it often takes until your early to mid-20s before you're ready. So I would say just hold your horses on Vigo. We all like him. He's going to be a good player. It's not absolutely essential that he plays. It's fine that he develops and plays first ruck in the reserves for the rest of the year. Maybe playing a game or two if Goldstein gets rested. All right, that would be my view on Vigo. I'll also have a bit of an eye on Lual, because I thought, and now look, I was at the game and I didn't sort of check the stats until after the game. I was surprised when I looked at the stats sheet and Lual only had 10 touches, because it felt like he had a lot more. Maybe it was because I was focusing more on the first half, but everywhere he went, he seemed to be quite creative with the ball. He seemed to be, make the right decisions. His attack on the football was really, really intense. And I really, really like what I saw. Faded a little bit in the last half. I don't remember him doing too much in the last half, but that first half in particular, I thought he was one of our best players. So look, I'll have an eye on Lual, Blackiston, a lot of these young players, Zach Johnson, Angus Clark, who will be, have good memories against Richmond, having kicked a few goals against them in his first game. So there's a lot to still look forward to with how these young players develop, and importantly, how we play. We need to play like we did against the Gold Coast. I want to see a change in the game plan that is permanent and not just 1 week. And I think Brad Scott would be pretty happy with the game, with the way we played against Gold Coast. So I think we're going to continue to play that way. So prediction for this game, I'm picking Essendon by 22 points. We need a bit of reward for some of our we're on a 5-game losing streak, and we played pretty well against Brisbane. We played pretty well against Carlton, and we played pretty well against the Gold Coast. So it wouldn't be particularly good for our development if we were to fail against Richmond. So we need to win. I think it would be an important little scalp for us to get that 7th win, to continue to beat the teams below us, which we need to continue to do to prove that we're better than them. And I'm predicting Essendon by just under 4 goals in this game. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Will you be going to the game? And I'm interested into what you're looking for in this game. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with my thoughts? If you don't, let me know. If you do, great. But just let me know what you're looking for, what players you're looking for in particular in terms of their development. How do you want to see us play? I'm really interested now that the season's over, just in the development of the team and in the game plan, because I think that is going to be what is going to be most important for us going into 2026. So I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day, everybody. Like and subscribe to this channel. And as always, go Bombers.